Waiting for the notification.
So waiting for your thing. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook, according to Zoom.
According to Zoom, but what does Facebook think?
Well,
sometimes they disagree. Ah, yes, there we are.
There we are. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. You mute us.
I always have to wait until I get it so I can log in and see who's there.
Oh, I've got the spinning circle of death for our live broadcast tonight. Oh, doesn't
there we are. I got it. We're on. We got one viewer.
That's probably me. But what's his Facebook thing? Sometimes
we have one viewer. Oh no, we got a whole bunch now. We got at least 3. Welcome, guys. Well, we'll get started. There we go. Roy and Christopher and Joe and Sue. Yay, Garth. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Always on time. I like that. I like prompt fans. If you want to call us fans, you don't have to be considered fans. Anyway, welcome to Sci-Fi Distilled. Today we have Bruce Playfair. We're going to talk about Stargate SG1, which was the television show sparked by the 94 movie Stargate with Kurt Russell. And we'll get going. So, Bruce.
Before we get going, Rizzo, can you tell us?
Can I tell you?
Why are we all drinking Suffering Bastards?
Well, I didn't want to go into the whole thing and spend, because I did put the link, but it has a really cool history, but it has its origin in Egypt. Let me put the drink up so we get to
Garth is already playing my drinking game, apparently. Garth, it's subconscious.
Let me get the drink up, share the screen. So here it is, the Suffering Bastard, which is bourbon, gin, fresh lime juice, bitters, and a little bit of ginger ale, and garnish it with mint. It'd be better if you just read the article because it kind of goes on, but it was during the Second World War in Egypt, and it was a drink that was developed and very popular at a bar there. Like I said, if you look at that link that I posted earlier in the week, it's really kind of an interesting history behind the drink. But I picked it because Stargate has such an Egyptian reference or link. So I thought it was pretty cool that this.
Well, all right, then here's
Suffering Bastard. Enjoy. I am unfortunately not drinking that because I didn't have any ginger ale. But
I do have ginger ale, but I didn't have bourbon, so I don't know what I'm drinking.
Okay, moving on. So, Bruce, you are a big Stargate SG1 fan.
I am a fairly big fan, yes.
Okay.
And Atlantis and a little bit of Universe. I sort of lost it at that point.
He fell off in the universe.
I fell off the wagon.
So okay, so the movie. So originally it came out. I mean, obviously after the movie, and it was 97, and it was on Showtime. Originally, for the first 5 seasons, actually, it was on Showtime. Yep. So you had to pay. It was a pay for TV, so to speak, show. I watched it from the pilot from day one. I fell in love with it. I actually saw the film in the theater when, and I really liked the film. I know it wasn't hugely popular, but you got Kurt Russell, a nuclear bomb. What else do you need for a perfect
and the Crying Game, Jay Davis.
Yeah, and the guy from the Crying Game. No, it was a really good movie. I liked it. And of course, as soon as they said they were going to make a TV series out of it, and I like the track that they went. It's kind of that they could go. Obviously, they needed something other than going just to Abydos. But and then obviously Sci-Fi took it over in 2002, I believe.
Yep, season 6,
and ran it for the rest of the others. What was another 4 or 5 seasons, and then of course the spin-offs.
It was one of those brilliant ideas where, you can all go to all these fantastic worlds. You don't have to worry about, in the Roddenberry sense, landing a spaceship. You can just be there, and it's hey, I'm home in the morning. I leave my wife. I go down to work, and poof, I'm on an alien planet. So you can combine the today with the fantastic and stuff. It was just a brilliant idea.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be set in current time. It wasn't futuristic. It was meant to be set fairly currently.
Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned the ships. Yeah, the Ring was their ship. The Ring was their Enterprise. It could take them anywhere. However, that didn't stop them they did eventually go ahead and introduce ships later. But hey, what are you gonna do?
Yep.
And on that note, just while we're talking about the ships, the SGC ships were horribly ugly. They were
flying shoeboxes.
Prometheus was ugly. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
The newer models I quite liked. I thought they were
Well, the fighters, when you got to the
Yeah, like
later
the Apollo.
seasons and the Ben Browder era, the fighters were definitely an improvement, no question
Yeah.
about it.
but I'm talking about the Daedalus and
Yeah.
stuff like
The
that. I thought
Daedalus, the Apollo, the Odyssey. No,
the
let's
George
start with,
Hammond,
oh yeah, Odyssey.
yeah, the George Hammond.
The George Hammond, the Sun Tzu. Yeah. Yeah, they improved the ships, but yeah, the Prometheus was a flying box.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
terrible. I guess they were
But
trying
at
to
least
make
it was different. But it looked like, and it said USAF on the side. It looked like something. Like,
yeah,
it
I guess
legit
they
looked
were,
like
they were
something
trying to make it
military
like,
would
you
make,
know,
right?
we have this technology, so we're just going to, you know, put it together, and it didn't have to be slick or anything like that. It's just, but I just thought, again, I don't know why they did that. I mean, it was working, like you said, with the gate, but maybe they just felt they wanted to go in that direction to be able to defend the Earth. Have some
Well,
ships.
that was the problem is, yeah, you could gate everywhere, but if you annoyed the bad guys enough, they just came in their ships.
Right.
Yeah.
But it would take them a long time because they were still bound by light speed, or, you know, multiple light speed even. Because I think there was some stuff they're saying that they were coming, but it was going to take them a while to get there. You know.
Yeah, just because
Wasn't
they
like it
were
was
so far away.
yeah, it was so far away. So but they had that. But you're right, that the ship, and the other thing that was kind of neat that they did on the show was, because it was these you know, the aliens that came and took Earthlings and kind of seeded other planets. When they got to other planets, there was some cultural references, certainly their cultures that had been stagnated at whatever era they were dumped from, but there was also the language. Now they say there was something about, I thought that the gate somehow automatically translates or something. Wasn't there something like, no, maybe I'm thinking of
No,
Doctor Who.
they just ignored it. And the most obvious one was between the film and the pilot. We were talking earlier, the two characters that crossed over with the same actor was the High Father and Scar, and they couldn't speak a word of English in the film, and yet 1 year later, when the show started, they're speaking fluent English.
Well, Daniel taught him.
Daniel Todd.
In a year?
Of course, sure, why not?
Maybe they were, you know, exceptional.
So this show has a massive mythology, and mythology in this case means like the entire backstory. So we've got the Goa'uld, and we've got the Alterans, who became the Ancients and the Ori, which is a whole bunch of stuff. We've got the Asgards, and then we've got the Nox. We don't need to worry about them. We've got the Furlings. Really don't need to worry about them. But between those three, between the Goa'uld and the Asgard and the Alterans, or the Ancients, whichever you want to call them, oh my God, there's so much stuff going on. And it would be easy for a newbie to like get really lost, I think.
Well, they roll it out slowly enough, so I don't think that
Yeah,
if you
follow
watch the
from the
show
beginning.
from the beginning, if you try to come in somewhere in like season 6, you
You
might be a little confused.
You could
know. But I
maybe
think
jump
that would be
in
like
9
just
and
about
10.
any TV show that's made. I think, you know, I mean, even though there were story arcs, but the story arcs crossed whole seasons, like multiple seasons. You know, like you had the whole Gould thing was like the bulk of it, and then they kind of beat
They
them,
were
and
like
then we had to
single
go with something
episode
else.
things too, and then they were 2-parters, and then there were these.
Yeah,
huge
but for the
arcs.
most part, they were episodic. I mean, in a lot of ways, but you would build like one kind of, you'd meet the Nox, and then so that you put them, and then you'd meet the Asgard would come up, you know, and then the replicators, which were, you know, the whole that the Asgards were fighting the whole time. And they became a problem. So, you know, they kind of rolled it out. I don't think they like threw it all you at once. And it's like, oh, here's this giant universe, and you got to figure out who's what. No, they did.
No, but I think by the end of season 1, everybody had at least been mentioned at one point or another.
Probably not the replicators.
No.
They weren't even brought in yet. I don't know. Was the Asgard brought in on the first season?
Yes, because the fifth race. Yes, O'Neill sees them. Only O'Neill, just him. The episode's called The Fifth Race. It was season 1.
That wasn't the one where they go to the planet. Where
yes, it's the one where they went
hammer.
to the planet.
What's that?
No,
they
go
to a planet.
I think it was the one where that thing grabbed O'Neill's head and dumped all the information in his head, and then he had
Was that
he meets Thor.
It's been so long since I've seen it. There was the one where they end up on the planet with the hammer, and it takes Teal'c and puts him in the cave with the ancient Goa'uld.
That.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of
there was a lot of ending up on the
remember, like Thor or the Asgard come. We don't see Thor, but they come and they fix everything. But
Yeah, they
and
were
then
a mystery for a while.
we had already broken their little device that kept that planet safe.
Oh yeah, that episode. I think I know this episode. I watched all these episodes. You guys can't see my favorite.
Actually,
I watched all those episodes to prepare for tonight's conversation.
The 5th race was season 2.
Yeah. There was a lot of landing on the planet and doing something wrong. There was a lot of ancient devices that are always chasing after or trying to figure out an ancient device. There was a lot of counting down to bombs, especially in the first season. There was a lot of counting down to bombs going off. I feel like I was doing that. So if all the mythology is daunting, don't worry. There's lots of fun explosions and things happening. Just dive right in.
Well, the pacing of the show was done well. I mean, and there was enough humor in it. You know what I'm saying? It was done. I mean, one of the every science fiction series has to do a time loop episode.
And they did multiple.
Theirs was a classic. I mean, with O'Neill playing golf. I mean, Into the Stargate was epic.
That episode was called Window of Opportunity. That was also season 1, I think. No, I'm lying. That's season 4. It was season 4.
But I mean, it was just, there was so much humor in it in the same time. But, because like I said, it seems like, oh, look, a time loop episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, they did time loop in Mobius, in parts 1 and 2 of Mobius.
Yeah.
There was a couple there might have been another time loop one.
What's that?
The last episode was a time dilation.
Oh yeah,
right. That was a good episode. I was going to bring that up.
Great episode.
Where they dial into the black hole planet. That one where the planet's next to a black hole.
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was the one you were talking about.
Over 10 seasons, they did go to the same well a few times. Let's just put it.
Well, they all do that, I suppose. And like any show, there were some great episodes and there were some not so great episodes.
Yeah, that's part of course.
What I loved about it was that they had the characters were established and they were real enough that you could do the seriousness, you could do the funny, and they never broke out of the characters.
Yeah.
Even with Trek, when they did the Trouble with Tribbles, you were really stretching some of those characters in those areas. I didn't find with Stargate you ever felt that they were really stretching beyond the limits of the characters.
Right. Tilk was always their straight man.
Yeah, Tilk was there. Tilk was spot.
But he had some good lines that were pretty funny. I mean, over the course of the thing.
So props to Christopher Judge. He wrote 4 of those episodes.
Yeah.
4 Tilk-based episodes. I think Michael Shanks wrote a couple, and I think Shanks directed some. They all got in. Richard Dean Anderson directed some. They all dived in and
the cast alone, they did a really good job of putting that cast together. Especially those of us that had seen the film and had that as our base, and you think, okay, how do you replace Kurt Russell? And really, Richard Dean Anderson. I always use the 3 name. I always goof that. Richard Dean Anderson. He filled the role really well. I mean, he was MacGyver, so he was a known quantity. Pretty much the rest of the cast were unknowns for the most part up until that point. But I think it just fit really well. And there was a lot of chemistry right between. I know the woman that played the doctor,
Daryl Rothery.
What's that?
Daryl Rothery.
Yes, her and Amanda Tapping became very good friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like. If you've seen some of the behind the scenes stuff that's out, you'll see they talk how they're like best buddies and stuff like that. In fact, I just saw her in something recently. What the heck?
That's interesting. She was kind of underutilized, I thought.
Yeah, she was a good character. They kind of developed her more later on. She became more of an important character.
But can't watch Heroes though.
I just rewatched it. Yeah, The Impact. Yeah.
I can't. That's a tough one to watch.
That's a fantastic episode.
Which one was it?
Brilliantly. Heroes is the one. It's a 2-parter, but really, if you can just watch the second part and not miss anything. Clearly, someone has died, and we think it might be O'Neill because he took a hit right to the chest and he's not moving. But then we think, maybe it's this other kid whose wife's about to have a baby. And then finally, at the end, we realize, oh my God, it was the doctor. And Tilk.
I do remember that now.
It was a great episode. And Tilk gives somebody at the Carter the idea, hey, when you eulogize her, because they're going to have a little service, say, don't talk about how she died. Talk about all the people she saved. It was so beautiful. It was really good, really poignant. But that kind of speaks to what we were saying, what Bruce was saying, how flexible the characters are like this whole show is very flexible. They can be so funny 1 minute and then just have something so sweet and so poignant the next. And it played beautifully. It played perfectly. Yeah.
Yep. So, and of course, you know, we had the spin-offs, which weren't quite as successful, although I think Atlantis was
Atlantis did
fairly
okay.
well successful.
Yep.
And then it had its own right, but and then Universe only went what, 2 seasons?
2 seasons.
2 seasons, and
And
I don't think
we
were
had
they full. Were
Continuum and
they weren't
Arc
even
of
like full 26 episode seasons. They were still short, wasn't it? Truncated like they are today. Like we're lucky if we get 10 or 13 episodes.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it definitely had some, whether they bring it back in some form, they always keep talking. They did bring it back for Origins. I got the shirt. If you haven't seen Stargate Origins, it's a short series of short episodes, like 15 minutes. And it basically tells the story of Catherine and her father, and a short story about the gate before, in the 30s when, and of course there's Nazis. You always got to love Nazis because you can always use them as a bad guy. Nobody gets hurt because nobody likes Nazis.
Nobody likes.
You can always have the Nazis as the bad guy. So yeah, so it's if you see it and you can watch it, it's worth. I don't know if it's available. It was available on the MGM streaming service, which is, I don't even know if it exists. You're saying they're shutting that down.
I heard today there is either going to be, it's going to shut down in 2020. Now, has it already happened or is it still going to happen? I don't know.
Yeah. So, but I think it was
2020
available.
was
I want to say it was available elsewhere. It might even, if you Google it, you can find Stargate Origins. It's about 6 episodes, about 15 minutes long each. So
I'm just looking at comments. Everyone's saying hi. They love the time dilation episode. Roy was, of course, saying all roads lead back to Star Trek. So let's dive into that. There are a lot of roads.
Oh yeah.
A lot of roads leading to Star Trek in this show.
Where do you want to start?
Where do you want to start? So many. I have a list. Let's go through.
Marina Sirtis, John Delancey.
John Delancey, Ronnie Cox.
Yeah.
We're not going to count Connor Trenier because he was over in Atlantis. Are we just talking SG1 or do we want the whole thing?
It was SG1.
SG1. Okay. Renee Aubergenois.
Yeah.
Armin Shimmerman.
Barkley. Can't think of his
Oh
name.
yeah, Barkley.
oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name either.
Let's see.
Oh, my God.
Combe was in Atlantis. Nicole DeBeer was in. Oh, Picardo. Robert Picardo. We saw him a bunch.
Yep.
Billingsley. John Billingsley.
Yeah.
Who? Did we get anybody else? Who else?
Did I ever tell you the story about my experience with Billingsley and Captain Jack?
Oh, John Barrowman.
John Barrowman.
I must know this story immediately because I knowing both of their personalities, this is going to be a great story.
They were side by side.
Dwight Schultz is the guy we were.
Oh, Dwight Schultz, yeah.
We were side by side doing autographs at a convention. I was running the autograph. And Barrowman had a line, like you wouldn't believe. Billingsley had nothing. So they decided to have a striptease contest.
Barrowman decided to have a striptease contest.
So, you know, like, what can I do? And Barrowman's like, 1 button. And Billingsley like, 1 button, 2 buttons, and 2 buttons. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to stop this? How do I control this? So I'm running up. Thank the Lord, Barrowman realized he was wearing a golf shirt. So I only had 3.
He's out of buttons.
So he stopped there, but holy smokes. And again, knowing the personalities, you can just imagine that whole situation there. Jeez.
Billingsley, he's hilarious. There was a similar situation at Destination New York where Billingsley didn't have a line and it was Frakes who had this massive line, and Billingsley was just like, he was just yelling stuff, yelling at the line, yelling at the crowd, just being generally funny. He sounds like a great guy.
He's a hoot, yeah.
So what other, is it just actors connections with Star Trek?
No, there's 2 writers, Catherine somebody, and Ronald, can't think of his last name either. I don't believe any.
We're very informative here on this show.
Look it up for
Somebody,
yourself.
we don't know their name. Look it up. What are you, lazy? You got Google in front of you.
You got Google. I don't believe anybody else though. The directors, not so much. I'm going to give props, though, speaking of directors and showrunners and producers, I'm going to give mad props to Peter DeLuise. Peter DeLuise's fingerprints were all over this thing.
Oh, yeah.
He produced, he directed. I don't know if he wrote any, but he did a good job. Oh, he's credited with creating a lot of the Jaffa language and a whole bunch of, like, he helped flesh out a lot of the mythology and a lot of the stuff. He did a damn good job. And I was like, you go, Peter. And I realized that I'm like, oh, he brought in his brother David, brought in his brother Michael, brought in his father Dom at one point. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. He's really good at this. And then he went on to do some Atlantis and went on to do some Universe. And I was like, he had really got this sci-fi stuff down. So I looked at his IMDb. Now he's doing all Hallmark Channel movies. Like all these movies with the word love in the title, like Blossom, Springtime Love, and The Summer Winds of Love, and Christmas Love. And I'm like, Peter, you're grossly underutilized.
It's a check. It's a paycheck.
It's time for you to come back to sci-fi, Peter DeLuise. There's
Yes.
a new show, a new truck show starting up. You might want to look into that. I'm just saying.
Couldn't hurt.
Couldn't hurt.
But he was supposedly every episode he was involved with, he inserted his character name from 21 Jump Street.
Oh, I know that character name. I just saw it today. What was the character name?
Helen? Something like that?
Let me look.
Yeah.
I should have left his
Not a
IMDb
21
up.
Jump Street fan myself, so I don't
21
know that
Jump
one.
Street. Oh my God, I love that show.
So while she's looking that up, here's another little interesting factoid about the show. This is the only television show that was actually supported by the United States military, the Air Force in particular.
Yes.
Supported and endorsed.
Yes. And in fact, in Cheyenne Mountain, they had a door.
Yeah, two chiefs of staff, acting chiefs of staff, were on the show.
Penn Hall.
So that shows you, I mean, at least I think they felt that the show was being respectful to the military and, wasn't.
Yeah, Peter's character was Penhall, Doug Penhall on 21 Jump. Yes, they did have two officers come on. They had a good relationship with the Air Force. And the Air Force had a good relationship with
4 stars.
Oh, 4 stars, really?
Yes. They were both.
Much like the way Top Gun was a huge recruiting tool for the Navy, the Air Force used this as a recruiting tool, and it worked.
Now,
You could go through a non-existent gate and go nowhere.
And what was interesting was RDA, when O'Neill was promoted to general, he actually was brought to Washington and presented general stars.
And given a star. That's interesting.
Yeah, they actually, I think it's on one of the DVD collections. They actually have film from the ceremony.
Cool.
That's cool. So I want to do a couple little trivia things. One way we already talked about earlier. What does, the MALP, which was the 6-wheeled thing or whatever it was that rolled, they always send first to see if it's safe. What does MALP stand for? MALP. So if you guys, I'll give you guys time to sort that out and let the internet just catch up. So continue. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I figured I wanted to engage our audience.
Was that like multi-alien landscape?
Sure.
Pardon?
Yeah. Could be. I would agree with you, but we'd make us both wrong.
No one's writing anything yet.
No one's writing anything. They'll come up with it eventually.
Give them an easier one.
It's like a 30-second delay. So
yeah, it's 30 seconds. Give them the DHG. That one's easy.
DHG is another one. What does DHG stand for? And what was the other one? Was the GDO, right?
Yeah,
they like their acronyms on this show, which tracks with the military, because if you've ever been in the service,
oh yeah,
at least the United States military, they love acronyms.
And all the forms have like DOD-214, like all the stuff on the bottom of the form.
And that's the other thing that attracted me to the show, was the fact that the use of the military and the way they went about things was, with some exceptions, relatively logical. I mean, they used real weaponry. They referred to it by the real names. The ranks were proper.
Accurate. And she always called him sir. She always called Richard Dean Anderson sir. I noticed that throughout.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They never got comfortable with each other. So I see Mark Strock got it. He got mobile armored landing platform.
Right. That's not right.
Not.
No.
Close. I'm sorry.
You got mobile right. The rest of it's wrong.
He did get dial home.
And platform, I think, is right. Dial home device is correct. Yes.
Yes.
MALP stands for Mobile All-Terrain Laboratory Platform.
Was it laboratory? Okay, yeah.
I'm looking it up right in front of me.
Okay, I believe
And the GDO was the garage door opener,
you.
which was the code. Remember the GDO? That was the coding device that they had to have. That remember they had the which was really brilliant for them. It used a lot of science. That the iris that would close a millimeter, fraction of a millimeter away from the event horizon of the gate, so that anything that came through would just slam against it and immediately be pulverized. Which is really brilliant because I love the way when they were trying to hear thunk, thunk, thunk.
Yeah,
thunk,
you'd hear
thunk.
thumping and bumping, yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's gonna be a mess on the other side of that thing. But
No,
they never
that's all
had it
it
open
takes,
and like
though.
all these like blood and guts kind of fall over out. But yeah, that would, if they didn't have that GDO code to send first, they wouldn't open the iris and you might end up a pancake, a very, very, very thin pancake.
The one thing I did like was the use of the crew as background characters, especially Dan Shea as Sergeant Seiler. Now, Dan Shea was the stunt coordinator for the show, and so he was on as Sergeant Seiler. And if you ever, if you watch anything bad that happens to one of the people on base, electrocution or something like that, it is always Sergeant Seiler.
Oh, and didn't he make a comment about it? Didn't he go, "This always happens to me"?
Something like that towards
Like
the end.
later on, yeah.
The red shirt of Stargate.
He was the red shirt of
And he was
Stargate. That's awesome. Yeah, they needed tons of extra because it was a functioning military base, so there was always like something going on, so they needed bodies. Yeah, but just talking about the ring, I was watching a behind the scenes with Christopher Judge actually. That ring was all computerized. Like that ring was actually pretty cool. All they had to do was program it and it would spin and the chevrons would lock and light up all by themselves. Yeah. So they could just set that thing in motion and the actors could just react to it, which is super clever. I guess on the movie, they actually had like, it was like
probably had somebody manually.
Yeah, they had to have somebody like cranking it around. That's actually really cool that thing was like automated.
Showtime had a ton of faith in the show right from the get-go. They had before the pilot even aired, they booked an extra 40 episodes, and then right after the pilot aired, they booked another 40 episodes.
40 episodes, yeah.
Unheard of.
Their entire order was practically done before the first season was halfway over. I mean, they didn't actually order that many more after that. Right.
I mean, but it just, for them to put that much faith in it initially, I don't know what, maybe somebody was really brilliant at Showtime at that time, or they were just like, we need something. I remember I had it because I remember I watched it, and I was hooked from the get-go. Of course, I would pretty much suck up anything sci-fi. But it was a good show. Even my wife would watch it. Like I said, she's kind of a moderate sci-fi fan, so she kind of watches it because I watch it. But she, so it had a broader, appeal, I think, to people, which is kind of like, like a lot of the Star Trek sometimes is, more people like it than they might like something that's really hardcore science fiction.
Yeah.
So it had kind of that broader. Again, I think because it had some humor to it. The stories weren't overly complicated. You didn't need a PhD to follow it. And then they're fun, they're entertaining, and there wasn't a lot of messaging in there. There was a few episodes, I think, here and there that were trying to prove a point, but they were usually social points, not political.
Yeah Like 2 examples. What was the Wormhole Extreme episode? Wormhole Extreme, the name of the episode was Wormhole
Extreme.
Where
they made it.
That was brilliant. And then later on, we revisit my favorite, and I love Heroes. I loved Unending. I loved Mobius, but my favorite episode, 200. I mean, it's genius. And if you guys don't remember, that is the one. Thank you, Roy. Roy says, bless me, because I thought that's the one where they kind of look at it through the writer guy, the Hollywood guy comes back, and they're looking at it through all these different lenses. So it's Stargate puppets, and Stargate this way, and Stargate as Farscape, which was like, at the time I was like, like, I just loved it so hard. Oh, and Stargate as Star Trek. And they'd come back to the meeting room and they'd be like, this is Star Trek, you can't do this, it's not gonna work. And It was just brilliant. It was brilliant, brilliant writing. It was so funny. I was just rewatching it, and even now, I'm just sitting there grinning like an idiot watching this episode. It was so funny.
Yeah, they hold up,
They held
which
up,
is,
yeah.
you know, it's not dated in any way. If you watch it today, it could have been made, you know, last week. There's nothing. Even the effects, I think, were pretty good. You know, it was obviously, we all know it was produced or filmed in Vancouver area of Canada. So, you know, most of the alien planets for the first 2 seasons look like the Pacific
Or
Northwest.
Vancouver, yeah.
You know, but, you know, again, it goes to the point where they, again, were transplanting humans to these other planets. So it kind of things that they would kind of either A, pick planets that were very Earth-like, and B, they might have even transplanted plants and stuff.
Yeah.
So you kind of can buy it to some degree.
It was a good deal for Showtime because at first, when they first started filming, the American dollar was pretty strong, and so but then it changed, and then it moved over to Sci-Fi, and the dollar kind of started going that way, and they're like, "Ooh, this is getting expensive with the exchange rate." So
Yeah.
But you also have the tax credits.
Well, you know, and I don't, it was one of, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was one of the first shows that was really heavily produced in Canada, as far as, no, it seemed like it was at least
It
put it
had,
on the map, maybe.
Outer Limits, right? Outer Limits was going hot and
Well, I
heavy.
wouldn't say nothing was ever done, but I mean, I think it maybe opened up, maybe not, I don't know.
The showrunners worked on Outer Limits, and it was almost a direct continuation of the work with the effects houses and stuff like that. They just rolled it into Stargate. I mean, they basically, the one thing that Stargate did do was create the effects industry in Vancouver.
Yes, for Vancouver, yes.
Maybe that's what.
But Vancouver was hot and heavy as a little film center. They had their own little mini Hollywood going on up there.
Oh yeah, no, it was the first one really in Canada that took off.
Yeah, even before like Toronto, which is like, I know all the treks in Toronto now.
Toronto's getting big. I mean, people can't believe the size of Pinewood.
Pinewood, yeah. Good for you, Toronto and Vancouver. You go, Canada.
Well, now, you know, like I say, Star Trek is filmed there. You know, so
we're actually setting up studios here in Ottawa, mainly for the Hallmark films.
Oh, so you're gonna have Peter DeLuise. Peter DeLuise is gonna move out there and do Love in the Afternoon or whatever it is.
Oh God, they already do.
What's that other show you guys have? Whence Comes the Heart? Where Comes the Heart? What calls the heart? The heart calls. Yeah. Some show that's been on for a million years.
What was it? I'm sorry, I was reading something. I missed
I'm just Peter DeLuise. I'm just saying what he does.
Here's another. Christopher Judge and Amanda Tapping were the only cast members that were on the entire run of the show, where they didn't leave and come back.
Yeah.
They were on over 200 episodes, so that's kind of interesting.
Who is the lead? Who has the largest number of episodes they're in?
Samantha.
Well, it's probably Amanda Tapping would be my guess. No?
Is it Christopher?
Yeah, by one episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because she took maternity leave at some point in there, didn't she? Yeah, maybe that's why. Interesting. Go ahead.
Amanda Tapping is the reason one of my friends is a lawyer now.
Oh, really?
He actually went to acting school with her, and she was so much better they decided to quit acting, become a lawyer. And I
hope they're a good lawyer. I'm sure they are.
I thought it was a story that this buddy of mine told all the time, and I actually went up to Amanda one of the shows and said, you know, my buddies keep saying this. Is it true? He says, "Oh, Wayne, yeah, no problem, yeah."
Oh my God.
It's actually true. Great.
That's awesome. Christopher got the part. His friend had the script. His roommate had the script and was like trying to work out a line. Like, how am I going to do the line for this audition? And when the roommate like went to the bathroom or something, Christopher took the script and skimmed it and was like, "Oh my God!" Called his agent and said, "Get me this audition. Get me this audition now." And the rest is history.
Now I saw a comment.
At least he wasn't roommates anymore after that.
Well, he had moved to Vancouver after that.
I know, but his roommate probably wasn't too thrilled with him.
I saw a comment from Sue earlier saying that Chris Judge was a prankster on set.
Yep, that is true.
Actually, his favorite prank was farting.
Ooh, don't do that, Christopher.
He learned to do the silent but deadly. They'd have a very serious moment where he'd be stone faced and it'd be very dramatic, and all the rest of them would be like, "What the hell?"
It's
Now
funny.
I can't watch because he pulls that face a lot. Like he always is pulling that like serious face. So now I can't look at that face.
Well, it's
No.
interesting because if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff that they did later on, and you see them out of character, and he's laughing and like doing the practical jokes, and it's so completely opposite of what his character is. You're almost like, is this the same guy? Because you're so used to him being So but he was a great character for sure. He had a kind of a Spock quality to him, in my opinion, kind of very
Half
serious.
Spock, kind of warpy.
Yeah,
Not really
a little bit
warpy,
of
but
Worf
a
in
little
there,
warpy.
sure, yeah. But it was that very, more, very stoic. Not Spock in the sense that he was science, but that very almost emotional.
And he would say "indeed" a lot.
Yes,
Indeed.
yes.
All you need to do is just temple the fingers and be like.
And he had kind of the eye thing too that he would do.
Yeah, he kind of had the eye thing going on. Yeah.
So another trivia fact: this was one of the longest running sci-fi television shows in the United States. Does anybody know what TV show surpassed it? Not
in the United States or worldwide?
Our viewers. We're trying to engage our viewers. So if anybody knows what show now, I believe still holds the record for the longest running science fiction television show in the United States. We all know that Doctor Who is blowing everybody out of the water with that.
Speaking of long-running shows, one of the other ones that was filmed in Vancouver is this little called The X-Files prior to Stargate.
Oh, yes, that's right.
X-Files, yes. That's true. That's right. X-Files, we'll do that show at some point because that's kind of another interesting television show to cover.
You might want, they're guessing MASH, Simpsons, Twilight Zone. You might want to specify.
Rob Barnes got it. Supernatural is correct.
Supernatural, yes.
Supernatural, which is still running, I believe. In 2005, it surpassed Stargate SG1.
I confess I've never seen an episode of that show.
Neither have I. My daughter's a big fan of it. Which usually means
they have like huge supernatural, like you know how we have Star Trek conventions? They have supernatural conventions.
It's a big thing. I've never watched it. Apparently, the cars,
in the car.
Malibu, or not Malibu, it's something.
Impala. It's one of those shows that's sort of like Stargate probably to some people. There's just so much mythology after 12 seasons that I get kind of scared saying, yeah, I'm going to jump into this.
Yeah, you can't. It's definitely
just start
just like most of these shows that are long running, you can't just jump in because there's so much backstory for a lot of it that you'll be like, I don't know what's going on here. So
yeah.
But anyway, that did surpass it. That is just the 10 years or 10 seasons of SG1. That does not include Atlantis and Universe. So
sadly, Universe, it's not a one-hit wonder, but it's going to be down there. It's not going to beat much of anybody.
Well, I think it was a little too dark. There was almost no humor in it. I think
there was no humor.
It didn't work as well. Even Atlantis was darker than SG1. It kind of like got darker as they went. It wasn't as bad. There was some kind of humor to it. But again, I think people like that. Not that it was a comedy, but they like the lightness of it. It was a serious show, but then it wasn't too serious and take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
So that's just my opinion on it. I mean, obviously anybody can disagree with that.
But Atlantis did have Rodney McKay, one of the greatest characters to come out of SG1. He was an absolute hoot.
They had both Rodney McKay. Well, he was funny, but he was always afraid of everything. And they had the other little Scottish one running around, and then they had the Russian one. You know what I liked about Atlantis is international, kind of like the Bridge of the Starship Enterprise. And they were running around. He had those little Canadian.
Yeah, they had their little Canadian. Yeah, because the one guy was Canadian, and the other one, they had different.
I love that. I love them running around doing stuff, and they'd kind of spar with each other. That was awesome. But Universe, I really enjoyed Universe, but I am always down for doom, gloom, and grapes of wrath in space. I am down for death at every turn. I am there for it. So I was cool.
I think it depends on the show, and again, I don't think that the Stargate universe really was that, at least the crowd that that watched that show was looking for that. That's why
No,
I don't
they thought it would be more
you know,
Stargate.
I'm
They
all
thought it would
for
be
I'm all
more
for Game.
SG1.
You know, I love Game of Thrones, which was like that too. Everything was
Yeah.
like everything went bad.
Everything got
bad.
horribly wrong.
Yeah,
Horribly
you
wrong. Yeah.
never get better. And you know, so but I mean, that's why we watched that show. Who's gonna die this week? Yeah. and it got
Place
to
your
that
bets
point.
now.
You know, it got to that point, whereas after season 1, you knew that okay, hey, nobody's safe in this selfish job. But so I think Stargate's just the opposite. You don't look for that, you know, and I think that's a different crowd and it's a different expectation. So maybe that's my take on why it didn't do well.
Yeah, the crowd was
Darkness
looking for.
I agree with what you're saying. They're probably trying to compete somewhat with Battlestar.
Compete with Battlestar, which got gritty. Yep, got dark and gritty.
We'll definitely cover that one at some point because I really think that was a brilliant series. But I had something I was going to say about Stargate and I completely lost my train of thought. So talk amongst yourselves until I think of it.
I am overloaded on Star Trek. Yeah, Stargate. Right?
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Go ahead, Bruce, though, if you had something.
I don't know. I was just going to ask, you know, favorite episodes. What you got?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we talked about some of them. It's so hard because there's so many.
So
certainly the time loop one was probably one of my favorites as far as just fun. God, I can't pull one out that I think is. I really did like. Again, I'm terrible with the names. The one where they go to the Asgard protected planet, and O'Neill and Teal'c end up in the cave with the ancient Goa'uld and stuff. I thought that one, you learned a lot of backstory about the Goa'uld. Anything that that was a kind of a brilliant episode. I thought not necessarily brilliant, but it was a good story. It was a good universe building. That there's this other race that doesn't like the Goa'uld, but for some reason felt they couldn't just go wipe them out.
Yeah.
So
for me, I'd split it into two categories. I say for drama and then for comedy. And for drama, heroes. Heroes.
That was a heart-wrenching episode.
That'll stick
no
with
question about it.
That'll stick with you. Also for drama, maybe Unending. There were just a few moments in Unending when Beau Bridges dies, and when it depends if you like Vala or not. And I was okay with Vala. I was down for Ben Browder. I was down for Claudia Black. I might have a girl crush on her. So
that was good. That was what my thought was the Farscape connection.
Yeah, the Farscape connection. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But there was a few like really tender moments in Unending. So for heroes, for the drama, for the comedy, again, 200, always and forever. Wormhole Extreme was pretty funny too, but 200. I was like laughing at that thing last night, just sitting there laughing by myself.
One I like on the comedy side that doesn't get a lot of love is the one where they go. This is in the 9-10 seasons. Where they go to the planet, they ended up in a museum because the ring is on display in a museum, and they are deemed they must be terrorists. And instead of fighting it, they end up, let's just play along. We're terrorists and stuff like that. And
it was with Ben Browder and Claudia.
Yep.
Which episode was that?
Look that one up because I don't remember that.
I need to go back and look at that. Yeah.
There's so many episodes. We're talking, over 200 episodes, so it's kind of hard to.
So they basically dial in. They come into this, room. They see a DHD. They don't realize the DHD is actually a fake as part of this exhibit. So they're stuck there, and it turns out that they are in a museum. There's a big political rally or something like that. They get mistaken for hostage takers and terrorists, and they just end up playing along. And poor Daniel there is trying to be, a terrorist and be, of course, the kind, caring person that he is. And, you almost very Canadian, apologizing for everything. It's like, no, you're supposed to be a terrorist.
I need to look that up. I somehow missed that one. But
I don't remember that. It's funny. I have to go back and look for that one.
But the Farscape connection. So Farscape had just ended, and actually Claudia appeared first. Claudia was on season 8 in like a one-off. Maybe she's on twice. I don't know.
She was on a lot of stuff. She was kind of prolific out back then, because
she was in Pitch Black with Vin Diesel.
Well, she was like in the Hercules TV show.
She might have been in those
back
too.
then, and so she had been around quite a bit.
Yeah. And then
Farscape.
and so Farscape had ended, and they were both properties of Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi Channel at this point. So it just made natural sense that they were like, oh, okay. But
I was almost
Ben
felt that they
Browder,
gave them jobs saying, "We feel bad we canceled your show, so here we'll stick you in."
yeah. Sorry
It's
about
also on
Farscape.
its
Your
way
little,
out, but,
your little
you know.
Australian puppet show.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Let's move you in over here to a real Canadian sci-fi show. Come on over.
They don't.
But
I love
people were like, "Oh, Ben Browder." Oh, I was fine with him, but I was completely, whatever. I was like, whatever.
No, I think we gave him a good backstory and a good way of sort of integrating, because his character was supposed to be one of the heroes in the Battle of Antarctica and
That's right.
him and stuff. Got injured and things, so it gave him sort of a natural in.
Yeah. But the hardcore fans were like, no, we want our Richard Dean Anderson.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with bringing him in, of course, but again, both those characters, him and Bala's character, because I liked Farscape so much, to me it was just to get more of those two characters.
It was more Ben Browder.
Obviously, Claudia played a completely different character.
Yeah, and they paired her up with
on Farscape. I mean, it was almost like 180-degree type,
But that was the thing. Her chemistry with Michael Shanks was unbelievable.
Yes. Yes.
No, it worked. And again, that's why I didn't have a problem. I know some fans get so hardcore. No, that's not right. And I'm like, it's just the show evolving.
Yeah. That always happens.
It's gonna change. So
now you like your trivia, Mike.
I like trivia.
Let's go with Michael Shanks' two wives were on the show. Who'd they play? I think at least one's a wife and the other's the mother of his child.
Oh, really? Oh, Michael Shanks rolls that way, huh? Did not know that.
Baby daddy.
Oh, he's a baby daddy.
I don't know. Ask our quick guess.
Oh,
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer to that.
Was one of them played as his wife, Teal'c's wife?
Teal'c's wife.
Oh, Jolene Blaylock. That's the other Star Trek connection we missed.
Jolene Blaylock was on there from Enterprise.
I knew there was another one. Jolene played Ishtar or Ishtar.
Yeah.
I don't know her name.
Yep, that's true. She was on there. And I think that was Enterprise was still on, I think, wasn't it, at that point?
I think so, yeah.
I think it was too, yeah.
So
they admitted, I was reading something about the Star Trek, and the Star Trek people do cameos on other shows. It overshadows the character, overshadows the show. Everyone's just like, oh, there's gonna be a Star Trek person on, and so it becomes this thing. And they kind of knew it. Like the showrunners, the Stargate showrunners knew that coming in. So every time they had one of these people on, they, really.
Yeah, I don't know if that really counts for Blaylock or not. Because Enterprise was never that hugely popular, even though I think it was a great show.
So who was the baby mama and the baby?
Yeah.
Not mama.
The baby mama. Now I don't know if it was wife, but baby mama was Charest, his wife in the show.
Oh, wife. Oh, yeah. And she also full frontal. Oh, interesting. Okay, in the pilot, pretty sure we saw her. Okay.
Right. And we didn't really talk about that, but they did that on Showtime with the first.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Lexa Doig played the Doctor.
Oh, I wondered why they were always doing interviews together. I'm like, she's just the replacement for Dr. Frasier. Why? She's a minor. Who is she? Why is she always interviewing with Shanks? I understand now. Interesting.
I think they have at least
together.
Oh yeah, I think they have at least 2 kids now.
Fascinating. Anyway, wow, that's see that you learn stuff. Anyway, Rizzo, yes, we started to talk about that show because the show was on Showtime.
On Showtime, pay cable.
No, it wasn't full frontal. It was just boobs.
It was just boobs. So we are now no longer kid-friendly TV.
We are attempting to compete with HBO, which even back then was not the boob fest it is now. Because nowadays HBO is like boobs.
Yeah.
But back then,
we were talking about that. That was always a lot of these cable shows. They'll use that as a hook to get you to keep watching. HBO does it a ton.
Promise of boobs.
And the boobs will come out, and
that only gets you guys watching.
Get us adolescent males to continue to watch, hoping we're going to get another boob.
So they did.
Once it went to Sci-Fi, they re-edited those episodes. They obviously shot it.
It was only the first episode.
It was only the first episode, right? It never.
Yeah, and then the showrunners pushed. They were like, "We're going to syndication. Let's reshoot," and they reshot it all. So they already.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they
pushed. Said
reshot
no
it.
nudity,
They-
no cursing.
They had it. They had it in the can already. They just re-edited it.
They no,
Yeah,
they reshot it. I heard they actually reshot.
No,
Really?
they just re-edited the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't believe that they, most of the time when they'll do something, they'll do a second take and they'll do, okay, we'll do one without the top off.
Interesting.
Or something, and that way they have it. I highly doubt they put that all together, back together. They would have just figured out another way to cut it out.
That's what I heard, is that they were already like bucking for syndication. They like, well, we want this thing in reruns, and they wanted to be kid friendly. Because you know what they were probably thinking? Merchandise. So they wanted to be kids, so they pushed for no cursing.
I find that highly unusual that they would
okay.
go back and reshoot a whole scene like
Well,
that.
I don't know. I've seen like 97 different. I've read so much and seen so many different. Like, I'm getting my information.
I'm wondering if what they say is reshot is they reshot it while they were actually
doing it. Yeah.
The initial production
In the moment.
They shot that.
Yeah, that could be
common that they'll do that. Because you ever notice, like in a trailer, you'll see a scene and then you go to the movie and that scene is never actually there.
Oh yeah.
Like they cut that out.
Lots of times.
Just for the trailer stuff. So stuff like that. They shoot obviously a lot more than they need. And they'll do that. They'll say, well, let's just do one for safety, or we'll do one in a different way in case you want to.
There was in Rogue One, there was a big glaring, they used something for the trailer for Rogue One that you never saw in the movie.
Yeah, the TIE fighter sitting.
The TIE fighter, she's out in that plank thing, whatever it was in the TIE fighter.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's very common. But so once it went to Sci-Fi, obviously, in fact, even it's I don't know if you could even find that original version anywhere.
They make fun of us.
Not on the DVDs. I've checked.
Arguing over boobs. Yes, we are arguing over. That's the way we roll on this show.
That's it.
If you want class, you got to go back to Roy.
Yeah, this is
on this show.
If you want class, you go to watch.
On this show, we argue over.
We're drinking, for God's sakes.
It's sci-fi.
You're lucky that boobs have not come out more often.
All right, check in the comments here.
On Roy's, we discussed Star Laws, so you can't say that we were that classy.
Yeah. Rob, but we were talking about Battlestar a while ago, and Rob Barnes called it Battlestar Alcoholica. And you know what? The drunk S2, the drunk wherever he was. What was he? God damn. What was that character? The drunk and his drunk wife.
Colonel Ty.
Colonel Ty. Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of drinking on that on the 2004.
A lot of they are always pouring drinks on that show.
Hey, wouldn't you look at the situation?
Comment about his stuff.
I don't blame him. I'd be sucking down the ambrosia.
If you're in that situation,
in that situation. Come on now.
Oh, Garth is leaving us to go watch HBO. Sorry, Garth.
Sure.
And I've been touching my hair. I've been doing, those of you who saw my little drinking game post, I've been doing all of those things. So, sorry. Those of you who are partaking of adult beverages, I apologize.
Well, I don't know how they can get through the show if they're not taking care.
If they're not, you need the adult beverage to get through this show.
I wouldn't do it if I couldn't drink. But anyway, that's our hook, right? So does anybody have any questions while we'll open it up?
Questions, comments, complaints.
7-8 minutes left. And if you have any specific questions about the show that we might be able to answer.
So yeah.
Or if you just have any comments, go ahead. And you guys have been commenting all along.
Yeah, you guys have been chatting, right? Oh yeah, and Garth says he's very drunk. Sorry, Garth. I apologize.
So
I apologize. So yeah, this was a great show. Huge mythology. Fun show.
Not only does it have a huge mythology, it used a lot of mythology.
It used it. Used. So one thing just that you needed to keep track of all these races, like
all
the
these different races. We had Norwegian.
You also had to keep track of what human mythology they fronted as.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had Viking, you had Greek, you had Egyptian,
Arthurian.
Arthurian, yes. A tiny smattering of Buddhism and a tiny smattering of
So again, because it was kind of that we took pieces of humanity for slavery, and
well, it's the
it made it easier. I think
they adopted the panspermia theory of humans not colonizing, but
well, it wasn't really colonizing, and
they weren't colonizing. Just
they were forced
panspermia. Go look it up. Go Google panspermia, right. And you'll know everything there is.
And again, the other thing was you could there was a few where the societies had gotten away from the Goa'uld, and advanced like humans did. And then there was the ones that were kept, the gold kept them, subjugated so that they would not advance. Because they saw what happened on Earth, so they kept that, that down.
Yeah, Sue wants more Montreal Comic-Con stories about SG1 people.
SG1 people. Oh, geez.
Is SG1 is it still pretty even now? I bet it is because they've only just been off the air since 20.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Judge Shanks, Tapping, and Anderson.
Tapping. See, but Tapping kicks so much ass. I love her. And Sanctuary, she did Sanctuary, and that was her project.
Yep. But no, I mean, they're just such wonderful people and very personable and stuff like that. So they always draw a crowd.
Good.
Shanks you don't see too often. I think he's just too much into the family and stuff like that to get out. But I've seen him once. I've seen most of the others a couple of times. And of course, MacGyver. That was one of the most brilliant things. I think it's in the first episode of the second episode. It took us, 5 years to MacGyver a system to run this Stargate.
Yeah, the MacGyver system. That was definitely one of the. I would call it an Easter egg because it was so obvious.
Yeah, and there's an outtake of Tapping harassing, they're both they're picking at a glacier or something.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're a MacGyver for 7 years. Why can't here's a shoelace and some bubble gum? Go build a nuclear bomb or something." Yeah, it's just an outtake. I can put the link up if you guys want to see it. It was adorable.
Yep. And she mentioned, I know I did this on Roy's show, and you guys, nobody knew what the hell I was talking about, but she mentioned in one of the first episodes when she came in and she was talking to Kowalski, and because they were some of the guys were giving her crap because she was a woman, that she was this expert, and she said, "I played with Major Matt Mason when I was a kid." And nobody knew who Major Matt Mason was when I was here. And I mentioned that, and it was like, "I don't know what that toy is." And she mentioned that toy. Because it was the Spaceman toy.
That's awesome.
And there was another brilliant stroke with Kowalski. Here's a character you set up sort of as your second guy, sort of a main character that's a main secondary character. And then you kill him off.
The second episode, the second or third episode, he was done. So, which was kind of a bummer because I thought they were gonna,
he died twice.
He been a good character.
Yes, he did.
He died twice. He came back in Mobius. No. Maybe Mobius. He came back in Mobius. And died again.
He was also in the alternate mirror universe where they use the quantum.
Where they literally used a mirror.
Yes, to go to the other universe.
So let's say there's so many good episodes that they've done in that show. I know a lot of it is kind of warmed over older stuff. All these shows kind of, like I said, they always do a time loop. Oh, wait.
That reminds me, huge one before we go. The huge controversy. The Star Trek connection. They said that Stargate copied an episode almost beat for beat. The episode was Below the Surface. It was season 4, episode 10, Below the Surface, or Beneath the Surface, I'm sorry. And the episode from Voyager that was copied was something called Workforce. The two episodes are so similar, beat for beat for beat. They both get kidnapped and given amnesia and made put to work in whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Only first Tuvok over there and then Teal'c with Stargate. They break free somehow because they're alien, so the brainwashing doesn't work or whatever. And they start to realize, wait, this isn't right.
I do remember both episodes.
And people were so upset. They were like, hey, Stargate copied Voyager. And then they were like, no, wait, the Stargate one aired first. And then the Voyager. And they're like, okay, Voyager copied Stargate. What's happening? And then they're like, no, the Voyager one actually got shot 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. And they're just airing it now. So there was some script in the pipeline a while back that got circulated, and finally landed in the Stargate desk. And they're like, yeah, let's shoot this script. This script looks good. So yeah, there's these two episodes that are
coincidentally written by one guy.
Are they really?
No, I don't know. I'm just joking.
They're not. But if you just have time one night and you want to look, just watch them both.
I know exactly the two episodes now that you mention it. Yeah. It's funny at the time. Well, I should say by then I was off Voyager. I wasn't really watching Voyager.
Whatever. All right, and with that, now that I've gotten that one, I've got to stop scribbling my notes. I have to write a little more legibly here so I know what's going on.
So, well, it's just about 8 o'clock. So, any last thoughts from either of you on Stargate SG1?
It's awesome. It's fun. Everybody should watch it.
Absolutely.
It is a great show.
It's the closest to Trek that wasn't Trek. It got the characters right. It got the balance of humor and seriousness. It could go all sorts of different places, without breaking the story mold, the mythology and stuff like that. So no, it's a good time.
Great point. Yeah.
Yep.
Closest to Trek that wasn't Trek.
I do want to give a shout out to Roy and his show, which is now named, and I hope I get this right, Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi. So Roy,
Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi.
I apologize. It's gonna be on Friday. What is Roy doing Friday? Do we know?
I'm actually not sure.
I know he's got another. He's got one of the
Type in the
Space Nine
comments.
coming back soon.
Yes,
Roy?
he is. I know he's having Nick Tate back. Yeah, I did hear that, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's this Friday. Maybe it is.
Anyway,
this
it'll be
Friday.
good. Watch Roy on Friday at 7 o'clock.
It's always
on Roy's
good.
channel.
Yeah, Roy's good. Roy actually knows what he's talking about. They
Sorry,
actually do
Roy.
research and preparation.
So, however, for us, we have next week. We're doing. Don't miss this one. It's gonna be good. We're doing Blade Runner with Dave Lafredo.
Dark, moody.
So we want to talk about dark and moody. This one's it.
It was a dark and stormy night.
Classic. This one is hardcore sci-fi, folks. There's no light, broad appeal on this one.
For homework, if you could all read "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep," that would be tremendously helpful. We will be.
Or just watch one of the multiple versions of this movie, whether it's the director's cut, the extended director's cut, the super extended director's cut, the final director's cut, you name it, there's a million in there. So we're going to see that next week with Dave. So we're going to have a good time.
Moonraker. Bryce says Friday night, Moonraker.
Oh, we're doing Bond.
Bond. James Bond.
So once again, everybody, thanks for coming. Thanks for your time. Hope you're all staying safe and separated and all that stuff. And we will see you next week. And remember, there's no place like home.
Dial home. ET phone home.
Those of your SG fans will get that. Anyway, good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night.